All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and here we are on December 24th. It is right after 5 o'clock, and today we're going to be having our final training of the year. Just to let people know, right? And you guys don't call and be like, "Where's the training this week?" We will not be having a training on New Year's Eve, okay? But for today, we're going to be talking about financial aid myths and why they hurt you, okay? Once again, it's December 24th. Thank you guys for being here when it's actually time for you to be spending time with family, right? But for a lot of our families, this is something that worries them. It puts kind of like it puts a damper on your holiday festivities because you're worried about how you're going to pay for college, right? Now, if you can do me a favor, put your student's grade in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated. I see that up here. Some people have already done it. Thank you guys very much. Let us move on with what we're going to be talking about today. Well, first off, happy holidays, happy New Year, right? I know it's just around the corner, right? Our egelloC offices will be closed from basically, well, they're already closed today, but I'm here because I wanted to make sure that I get one last training in at the end of the year until January 5th. There will be limited kind of support. If you guys do have questions, please make sure to reach out to us. We will, again, if I see something come in, I will be answering, but it might be a little bit delayed. Okay. Now, what we're going to be going over today, we're going to be going over some financial aid news that's come out. We're going to be talking about the myths, the most common ones, right? And also what you should be doing and how to help yourself in these situations. Okay. Now, for those that are here for the first time, well, welcome, right? By the time that we get to our next training, we'll have seen each other for 2 years, 2025 and 2026. But my name is Coach David. I'm a former law school and college admissions reader, and I used to be a lawyer, right? And now I work in college admissions and financial aid, and I'm ready to save your family money. Okay. Now, one of the things I started instituting starting last kind of week was question time, right? I feel like there's a lot of families out there that, come to our trainings, but they kind of stay quiet and they don't really ask the questions that they want. And then they leave at the end feeling, well, unsatisfied, unfortunately, because they didn't really get the question that they wanted out there. So one of the things that I have instituted is this question time. I just want to take a real quick question, like time, like a short time to be like, hey, your questions are real, they're valid, and I want to make sure that I answer them, right? So if you do have questions, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat so that I can make sure that I answer them either in line with what we're talking about or after during our Q&A session. Okay. All right. All right. So with that, we're going to move into financial aid news, right? So really quickly, there wasn't anything super crazy going on. One of the things, and I forgot to change the date, unfortunately, right? But the Education Department's annual financial, like federal student aid conference, which usually happens the first week of December, every single year was delayed. There was no like, oh, it's gonna get delayed until here. We're not having it this year. It just got delayed. They said maybe it'll happen in March. Will it happen in March? I have no idea, right? But that means that there's no updates on regulations, training, education, right? How students need to go through this process, right? Because the financial aid form, right, that we all know of is FAFSA, right? So FAFSA has changed so much in the last 2 years, and even just this year itself, it's already changed 3 times. I've already seen 3 different interfaces. I've already seen 3 different sets of questions that are being asked, and the way that you sign up for your account has very changed from previous years, right? Now, what does this mean? Well, colleges don't know what's going on. Families don't have any information. So my question really is, well, who's running this circus now, right? As you guys know, the Department of Education, well, they fired like 80% of its staff, right? Sometime this year. I forget exactly what month it was, right? It might have been earlier this year, right? And then they brought 25% of that workforce back, right? But they still don't have enough people to handle things, and that's why this conference is not happening, right? Now, what's going to happen in the future? I have no idea, right? But hopefully, right, my hope is that the Department of Education either gets bolstered and strengthened to its previous level so it can be doing the things it's actually meant to do, or that another department takes over so that there's aren't these any gaps anymore, right? Because right now there's just too many gaps. Okay. Again, I'll try to keep you guys as updated as possible, right? Stay tuned for any breaking news. But again, we're kind of in the middle of the process right now, especially with our class of 2026. So there's nothing huge going on right now. There was a lot of news kind of earlier in the year. Okay. Now, before we get into our training, this is a quick message. For those that have already that are already part of our coaching program, well, you've taken step one to getting your student to college, right? Now, the financial aid, right? It doesn't get your kid to college. It helps you pay for it once they get there. But if you are interested in talking to our advisors about college admissions, you can go ahead and text 775 or 949-775-0865. Just a quick text, book, and we will be kind of getting back to you. Now, again, there may be slight delays due to our company-wide break. Okay. Now, today we're going to be going into those rumors and myths, right? And I'm going to dive straight into them. We're going to go deeper into some of them so that you guys understand why they might not exactly be the case. Okay. So there are so many rumors out there. We make a little too much money is the one that I hear all the time. Just last week, I had I think I had about 20 consultations, right? And everyone said, well, we're not really going to get anything. Our family makes a little too much. I don't even know what that means in today's day and age. With inflation the way it is, does anyone really make too much, right? Another one I hear all the time is like, oh, financial aid's only for low income families. Completely false, right? Applying for financial aid will hurt my chances of getting into a college. Completely false, right? Applying for financial aid is a one-time process. Completely false, right? And financial aid awards will be the same at every school. Again, completely false. These are things I hear every single day, and they are completely false. Okay. There's even more. I have to pay back all the financial aid I receive. Depends on what kind of financial aid. Financial aid's offers are final and non-negotiable. Again, not true, right? Only students with no other options should apply for financial aid. No, you should try to get as much free money as you can before you use your own money to pay for college, right? And if you get a scholarship, you can't get any other financial aid. Kind of true, kind of not, right? So we're getting to the territory of like maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no, right? We have other things, right? Students with like savings or part-time jobs will lose out on financial aid. Community college students don't need to apply for financial aid, right? Especially in California, that is wrong. We still have something called the Promise Act, right? If your family makes under a certain amount of money, right? And your students going straight from high school to community college, you don't have to pay for community college. It should be free, right? International students cannot get financial aid. This is generally true, right? But there are colleges that provide international student aid. There's not a lot, and it's not a lot of money provided because international students are required to show that their family can pay the full amount of going to college, but there might be little bits and pieces that you guys can get, right? You can't get financial aid if you're going part-time. You actually can. It's just half the amount that you would normally be getting, right? And again, this is one I put it in twice because I hear it all the time. Financial aid awards are the same at every school. How can you expect the financial aid to be the same at a UC, right? A lot of our families are in California, at a UC where the UCs cost around $45,000 and at a private school where the private school costs $90,000. The financial aid kind of packages are not going to be the same, right? And the last page of rumors before I get into things that are more like, or like talk about things that are more specific. If my parents are undocumented, I cannot apply for financial aid. Completely false, right? Another is if I live on my own, I'm automatically considered an independent student. Again, that is completely false as well, right? And taking out student loans will ruin my credit, right? They actually don't, right? It's like a different category of loan, right? So it doesn't really affect your credit situation all that much, right? It's only when you start not paying it that it might affect your credit. Okay. But let's dive a little bit deeper into some of the rumors that are out there, the more common ones. The first one is we make a little too much money. I get this all the time, right? What does that mean? I don't even know, right? I don't know. Yes, if you're making millions of dollars a year, you're probably one of these families that makes a little too much money. But I've been able to help families that make two, three, four, five, $600,000 a year get money on, like, save money on college, right? Here is kind of like if this is you and you make 750, 800, 900, a million dollars a year, no need for you to be here right now. You can quietly leave through the back door, right? But if you're one of the families that's like, yeah, well, yeah, we have, solid jobs, right? Good compensation, right? But it's not like, we're flying around the world, and, buying luxury goods every single day, right? That's not us, right? Then, right, you should stay and listen. Okay. But this is one out there that's like, I have families, and again, it's not just because the number is large. I have families that like think, okay, well, we make $100,000. We make a little too much money to get financial aid. And I'm like, no, it's not true. I also have families that are in the two, three, $400,000 range that feel that way. And again, depending on the schools, it might not be true. Okay. The second is the biggest one I hear all the time, and a big reason why a lot of families lose out. And they think it's that financial applying for financial aid will hurt their chances of getting into a certain college, right? Here is Coach David's opinion. Now, again, there's different places that will say different things, right? But this is my own personal opinion based on my 16 years of doing financial aid and college admissions, and I've been basically having sent students to every single Ivy League top 20, top 50, top 100 school in the United States. Here is my opinion. It will not affect your chances. If you are a competitive applicant and and you're asking for financial aid, you will get in, right? Or let's put it this way. If you're competitive in that year's pool, right, you will get in, right? The next part is them figuring out how much money they can give you, right? But here is the problem, right? If you don't ask for anything, you can't expect anything back. So I always tell families, and this is their personal choice, right? Is hey, if you feel iffy about it and you don't want to regret anything, then don't apply for financial aid. But don't be hurt and don't feel, sad that you got no money because you did not ask for it. Okay? So keep that in mind there. Okay? The third is that applying for financial aid is a one-time process. It is not, right? It's not you just apply for it once and then you're good, you're set, right? Instead, how this works is this, right? You apply every single year, just like you file your taxes every single year, right? And so when you are a senior, you apply for your freshman year. So everything is kind of 1 year back, right? So when you're a senior, you're applying for year one. When you're a year one student, you're applying for year two, right? So on and so forth, right? But it's almost a year before you start that next year, okay? But there are different due dates, right? Things like that. And just remember, it is something that needs to happen every single year. Now, number four, okay? Independent students, okay? Now, I'm sure that everyone has heard, oh, you know what? My friend's kid did this as an independent student and got this much money, right? I'm not saying it's not possible, but you're gaming the system because technically speaking, right? Just because your kid lives in their own apartment, that is, they're on the lease and you co-signed for them, right? Because there's no way they're getting an apartment without the parents co-signed, right? Then that does not mean that they are an independent student just because they are an adult, right? For the purposes of financial aid, your student is considered your dependent until either like one of these things happens, right? Either the student is an emancipated minor, right? So like Macaulay Culkin, right? I don't know who else has done it. That's the one person that comes to mind. I think Lindsay Lohan might have done it, right? But again, child stars, right? Child sports stars, right? That parents are stealing money from them, so on and so forth, and they need to be able to be in charge of their own lives, right? That's what an emancipated minor is. But it's very hard to get a court to actually give a court order to emancipate a minor student. Okay. The second is if the student is married. Okay. The third is if they're part of the armed forces, right? The fourth is if they are over the age of 24. Okay. The fifth is if they have their own dependents or children, right? Or the sixth is that the student has completed their bachelor's degree. These are the only six categories of students that are considered independent students when it comes to financial aid. Okay. Now, can you try and apply as an independent student? That's your prerogative, right? What will that actually do? In a lot of situations, it'll trigger kind of like a red flag, right? Especially if the student isn't over 24, this or that, so on and so forth. And then they're going to ask you, well, how do you support yourself, right? And when you say, well, I get direct deposits from my parents, game over. Okay. So again, this is one of those rumors that's out there. You've heard about people doing it, right? But it doesn't necessarily always work out. Okay. Now, takeaways, right? One of the things that I always caution people about is listening to people around you, right? Whether it is about whether it's about kind of like financial aid or college admissions, every student is different, every situation is different. So your next door neighbor that got their kid into Cal doesn't mean that their advice is going to be correct, right? So financial aid, same thing. Just because your next door neighbor got their kid into Cal and got them $3,000 a year, they have no idea why they got it, right? So do not rely on non-expert information, right? Not all your neighbors are good neighbors when it comes to advice about college and financial aid. I'm sure they're great people, okay? Now, other things that you want to kind of think about, and this is a little bit deeper, right? When you're looking at financial aid, there's different types of schools. There's schools that ask for just the FAFSA. There are schools that ask for the FAFSA and the CSS profile, right? You have to remember that these are tiered ranks, right? And we've gone over the FAFSA, the CSS profile, the different systems over the last couple of weeks, right? But for the FAFSA, that is the minimum amount of information, the bare bones information that they're asking for. CSS is a huge step up, and then iDoc is another huge step up. I can't even get my hand on the screen, right? So when a school is asking for just the FAFSA, that is a school that there are more opportunities at. For a FAFSA and CSS school, no, there's less opportunities. And a FAFSA, CSS, iDoc school, there's going to be way less, right? Again, the more information you provide about your family's financial situation, the less chances there are for families making over $100,000 to get financial aid. Okay. So something to keep in mind there. Now, one of the things that I always do is ask people to ask for help, right? So whether it's in Facebook, Discord, email, please let us know so that we can go into this process, not blind, but informed. Okay. So make sure to talk to us and ask us. Okay. Now, one of the things I always do is talk about these results, but these are great results from our last year. We even have some students. I haven't been able to get screenshots of their awards yet, but we have students in at some Ivy League schools, at some top 50 schools, early action, early decision. I'm just waiting on trying to get some screenshots from them. But these are some of the results that we've been able to get for families in different situations for the last year, right? So family makes over 300, we got them $30,000. Family makes over 400, we got them $42,000 at Baylor. At this school, at UC Davis, we got about $30,000 for this family. Okay. So again, please make sure to reach out, talk to us, right? Now, my schedule should be opening up a little bit in January, so you can go ahead and use that QR code, or you can text us, right? It's 650-860-5201, right? All you have to do is text us money, right? And we'll go ahead and figure out kind of like what you need, if we can help you right now, and then we'll set up a consultation if it makes sense. Okay. All right. But with that, I do want to go into question time. So if you guys do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay. But I know everyone is busy, right? Family, family reunions, right? Kids coming back from college if you have older ones, right? So you got to get things ready, right? Everyone's cooking, right? I actually have to go home and cook tonight too. So it's a lot of things that that need to be happening. All right. Well, I don't see any questions today, right? And that's fine, right? If kind of the information I provided was well received and there are no questions, that's great. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave this up for you guys so that you guys can go ahead and scan the QR code, get the phone number, right? Text us, email us, call us, right? Whatever it is, right? And if we don't pick up, just go ahead and leave a voicemail and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Again, our response times might be a little bit delayed during the break. Okay. I wish everyone the happiest of holidays, right? New Year's next week, we're not going to have a training. So everyone have a great countdown into 2026, right? And if you have any questions in the coming year, please make sure to reach out to us. We will try to get back to you. Okay. All right. Well, everyone have a happy holidays and we'll talk again in a couple weeks. All right. Okay. Everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.